Now, of course, Dataverse can scale to terabytes, and things like the common data model allow an entire organization to add multiple apps using shared tables and security roles in one Dataverse instance. But how do you manage all of that and coordinate it? Yasin is going to share his experience working with enterprise scale deployments, doing exactly that on this PowerCat Live. Welcome to PowerCat Live. I'm Phil Topless with Microsoft's PowerCat team, and I'm here with my fellow PowerCat Yasin. Hey, Yasin.
Hey, Phil, how are you?
I'm good. So I'm excited to talk about how Dataverse environments can be used across multiple applications and shared. But first, talk a little bit about how you got into PowerCat and your path through Microsoft.
So I've been with Microsoft for almost 15 years now,
Wow.
heading 15 years. And I have been working on from the on-prem version of the product, the XRM and Dynamics on-prem version from almost 4.0. And for the last 5 years or 6 years, I joined the Microsoft customer and partner success team. So I was part of the Dynamics 365 fast track team.
Yeah.
And then there I partnered with the PowerCat architects. And it really excited me to think of implementing applications at scale and how you can enable citizen development and stuff. I thought that was quite fascinating to see people's careers getting transformed and stuff like that. So that's how I got into the PowerCat team for, I think, last 2.5 years when the team was just growing.
The team, they were just kittens at that point.
Yes.
And now look at this litter. So what you just described is a great segue to the concept of sharing data across multiple applications. Why is this important? And what benefits have your customers seen by having a single Dataverse environment and multiple apps using that data?
You really don't want to have each application having its own environment, because that would have thousands of environments and it would become a management, IT management nightmare. So you want to make sure that at least from a management perspective, it's grouped and it's classified. And then the second thing is that you may want to reuse data, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to reuse data that is in the same Dataverse instance, or you want to build on top of an existing data model, then you can easily do that. So that further simplifies the development time for citizen developers who anyways will have a learning curve to do data modeling. So this would be an accelerated way of getting the apps built faster. So these are like the reasons why you would want to use a shared environment. So it's from a central IT management standpoint. And then from a citizen developer standpoint, it enables them to reuse the data models. So it helps them to build the applications at a faster pace.
Now, are there situations when you wouldn't want apps to share an environment?
Absolutely. So you wouldn't want. So the number one thing is if an application is a highly classified application, right? It's just for as an example, it's an employee payroll application or something like that, which has sensitive data. You really don't want that data to be opened up to build applications on top of it. So it would have its own sandbox, it would have its own production instance, and it would be managed as a separate enterprise application. So that's one thing. Another example could be you have a sales automation application where you have a lot of opportunities and high PI customer information with sensitive financial data. You may not want to share that for citizen development space. So based on the classification or of your enterprise standards, you may not want to share the data.
Got it. So I think what you're saying is there's no right or wrong answer?
Yes, absolutely. There's no right and wrong answer. And the good thing about
queued up for nothing. Come on.
So the good thing is the platform is so flexible that you can basically, and so scalable and secure that you can really use it with a lot of permutation combinations to meet your enterprise needs, which is quite fascinating, right? Historically, you would have access to do something like for citizen developers, which would have performance issues and governance issues. or you would have SQL for pro developers. But with Dataverse, you bridge the gap
You
for
can cross
both.
them.
And now everybody gets the same scale and same performance to do their jobs.
With all these players in this one environment, how do customers manage and monitor everything that's going on in these environments?
Sure. So if we go back to the slide, so here is one example where you have the notion of solutions and publishers, right? So what you could do is each application would have all its artifacts within a solution, and it would have a prefix, a publisher, which is nothing but a prefix. So any artifacts that are associated with that app inside that solution would have its unique prefix. So that would allow customers to manage and monitor multiple applications within a Dataverse instance.
Now, if I'm a solution architect or a maker building on top of this shared data, what should I know when I'm reusing these tables to make sure that I play nicely?
As an architect, I would be more focused on, hey, how are these shared tables going to be extended? Can they be extended? How is the data going to be secured, right, for shared tables? So let's talk about extensibility to start with. So from an extensibility standpoint, the good thing is that you can take an existing table. So an example could be an account table.
Right.
You could take that from your base solution. Of course, you have to have your base solution installed to inherit it. You could inherit that. You could inherit that table, right? And only as a container. So as it's illustrated in these slides, you may not want to include all the components, or you may not want to include the metadata. All you want to do is you can just take the tables, so that your base solution contains the properties, the columns, the forms, the fields, etc., as well as what extensibility you want to do. You can carry on inside your own solution. And then if we move on to the security concept, then again, each application will have its own security role, and as a part of that security role, they can define, if it's a master data, then ideally they may say that I want the records to be read only for everybody. So I can set the permissions to organization. I can set the privilege to read only for the entity. And that way, the master data records would be available for read only. And then comes your transactional tables. How do you manage that? So again, for transaction tables, you can use the same notion of security roles. And what you may do is, as you can see, you have privileges. So you can go and define privileges that I can write, edit, I can make it granular. And let's say I give full CRUD operations. So here we have various levels of permission. So you could give user levels wherein only the user that has created the record can see those records, edit those records. Or you can give it at a business unit level, which is all the users that are part of that application. If you could make a container of a business unit that way, then only those people can edit and view those transaction records. So that way you have complete partitioning of data. So from an architect standpoint, your data security and your access controls can be pretty granular and pretty flexible. So that's how you would control it.
And you and I both recorded deep dives on security rules. I'll link those in the description as well. So if people want to get really deep on security rules, there's several videos there. And then I guess finally, with all this complexity, right, automation is key. How have you seen your customers use application lifecycle management to make this simpler for their makers?
Absolutely. So again, we'll go back to the classification, because that's when your application life cycles would differ. So if you're building departmental, high volume citizen applications where you have hundreds of people building applications, so in that case, it's not going to, you wouldn't expect the citizen developers to do this stuff manually, or you wouldn't want your IT people to do this, to review these applications manually. So in which case, there is a very strong case and business value to build self-serve automation, right? So you would build a self-serve deployment tool to do the deployment from dev to production via test. And also as a part of that deployment, you may want to do an application review process. So again, you could fully automate the review process, or you could have like a human, an expert to review. Just eyeball the solution before it gets pushed into production.
Right.
So absolutely, you could do that, right? And we have a great reference implementation via the COE starter kit. So that could be leveraged as an example. And then if you go into the moderate volume applications or a portfolio type applications, in which case, again, you may want to invest in doing the automated deployment, and you could start off with the COE starter kit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could ideally have a central team to do the review and manage the data model and data security, because your volumes are going to be your application volume is going to be between 5 to 10. Again, it depends on your case, but that's what moderate means over here. And for low volume applications, for enterprise applications, you anyways have enterprise standards and pipelines and so on and so forth. So you could again plug those pipelines with our APIs and get the enterprise applications deployed. Again, across for all these three, you could leverage the COE starter kit as an example and achieve any of these three classifications.
And I'll include that link to the ALM accelerator and the COE starter kit in the description. And I think also too, you and I were talking before that we have within Microsoft a real world example in Success Hub, and the Success Hub team has written up their transition to how they've created this shared environment within Microsoft and have implemented a lot of the things that you described here. So I'll include that as well. Yasin, thanks for taking the time to share all of this.
Take care.